You're listening to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 967. My name is Connor Kilpatrick, and with me is my co-host, as always, Josh Flanagan.
Hey,
I say as always, but sometimes you're not on the show.
It's true, but I am always Josh when I'm on the show.
That's
I have
true.
not tried to change my identity in any way.
It's been a long time. You might get sick of being Josh.
I've been working on this Josh thing for quite a while.
I've almost got it.
Well, trying to accept this guy, it's going to be too hard to start over. Is my point.
I understand.
People talk about self-love, but
God, have you seen I don't want to get divorced, have to go back out there, and God, can you imagine starting over? Oh, terrible.
It's taken me undisclosed amount of years just to be able to live in my own skin.
On that note, welcome to iFanboy 2025. It's our 20th year of doing this show and our 25th year of doing iFanboy. And that means that every week for 25 years, one of us has picked the book they like the best from their stack of comics. We call that book the Pick of the Week, and we'll talk about that book, other books from the week, the Patron Pick, listener mail. It's good. It's a fun time for us, and then by extension, you, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do. Here's your spoiler warning. Exercise some caution. Josh, you had the pick on this week in which there were not a lot of books.
Now listen. I definitely had to have a long think after I finished my books. But it was the kind of long think where I finished them and I was like, all right, I guess I'm done with that. I went, oh man. Then I went and I looked at the list and I was like, woo. I'm not as I don't
10 or 11 books, 12 books, maybe not very many books.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, something like that. Not a big week. I actually added some things that I wouldn't probably normally have read just to sort of increase the spread.
But also, the number is the number, but the question is, what is the quality? And this week was a lot of that was fine books.
Yeah, there were things I liked in books, and if you were here last week, you'd been like, you didn't like a lot in books, which is true. That wasn't happening this week. In fact, there was one book, and we're going to get to it, where I thought, I was like, oh, I don't like they're doing this. And then at the end of it, I was like, I take it back. That was great. We'll get to it. But the pick of the week is Doctor Strange of Asgard, #1 by Derek Landy, art by Carlos Magno. And I've been waiting to say this since I wrote it down earlier. Colors by Espen Grundetjern. And of course, Court. There's no way that's not pronounced with the soft J. That is a Nordic.
No, but it's a Jern. Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Grundetjern.
Yeah.
So it is a book that is like many other sort of books that show up on the side that sort of, we'll take this character and put it over here. Yeah. And it's sort of forgettable. And I know the name Derek Landy. I've read books by this person, but it hasn't really made an impact once or another. So I'm like, it's a yeoman or, person sort of doing books. And the idea here is that since Strange he's not Sorcerer Supreme on Earth anymore because Doom is, he goes to Thor's place. He goes to Thor's and he says to Thor, hey, can I be the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard? And Thor's like, that's not a bad idea, bro. Why don't you go talk to this lady about it? And he's like, cool. Gets himself a buddy, gets himself an apartment, goes to see the lady.
You know what? Oh my God. I didn't even think he is exactly what we just joked about.
Yeah.
He's starting over. He's out there. He's got his bachelor pad. He's got a new job. He's, he's a little down and out, but he's
doing the work
on the horse. Yeah.
He's not sitting down on Bleecker Street feeling sorry about himself.
No.
And that's prime real estate, by the way. There's no reason that he would need to feel bad about that. He can just he could sell that and move to Palm Springs. He's good.
He bought that in the 60s too.
Anyway, so when I sort of went back over everything, I was like, I really enjoyed that. I feel like the concept was executed really well. And at one point I did go, who's writing this? Because I came up with it's pretty good. And of the things that were unexpected that, I was like, oh, I'll just read this. I wasn't going to read it but when I had more to add, I was like, oh, I'll give this a shot because I didn't expect much out of it. And then there is I'm trying to decide how much I want to spoil. Character shows up later on that you don't expect to show up. And then it turns out that you have a locked box murder mystery that
Yeah,
happens at the end.
I don't mean for this to be a pun, but it's a killer cliffhanger.
It
Like,
really was.
the
So
cliffhanger was very good. I like this issue. I thought it was a little much in terms of Asgardian speak can be a lot to deal with, and this was very dense with it. Like, one of the things that Jason did really well in his book was that he sort of toned it down a little bit, so it wasn't so overwhelming. There was a bit of it overwhelming here, but I liked the pieces of this. I love it's not the books. This is nothing to do with the book. I love that Thor's back in his Kirby costume, but one of the things this book does is, and I don't know how much I like this, but I like it right now, is that when Strange goes out into the world of Asgard, he turns down a room in the palace. He says, "No, I'll go get me a bachelor pad." With what Asgardian money?
And it's expensive. He said it.
We don't really spend any time with the folk on the ground in Asgard, so they're like, "You know Thor? I saw Thor once fly by. It was cool." Like that, and then just like, "Oh, right. I guess not everyone in Asgard is like in the palace intrigue of what we always read in the books as it is." And so that was interesting.
I think you're absolutely right about it. Like, I thought, well, it's interesting that he's sort of bringing in an Asgardian underclass, because I was like, well, they're gods. They don't have that.
Right.
But there are all these people, and that would happen, and I don't know how it works or whatever.
Yeah,
but
they can't all be princes, so
yeah, I guess run with it. And I thought that's kind of a new concept. Like,
and I did kind of enjoy the conversation at the pub where the guy's like, "I want to write funny romance stories." He's like, "Oh, you want to write rom-coms?" I like that name. Let's try to, like, I thought that was
right.
It was kind of, I liked it. It was charming.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, if we're, a lot of times, if I can't sort of figure out what I want to do, is like, well, what delivered way above my expectations. And when I look at it, like, I don't have many faults with it. I don't like Carlos Manuel very much, and there's a lot of face stuff in here that I don't like. We've talked about that a lot in past episodes. It's casual Thor. He's not wearing his helmet. He's got his big chair. I still don't like Thor as the Allfather.
I don't either.
But I kind of get it in the sense that, like, these people have been telling this Thor story forever. And it's like, all right, he's got dad issues. You can't keep doing this forever. So let's put him in the seat, because that's what's going to happen. Whatever. Fine. It's not the same, but
it just takes away the other stories, because he can't be out having adventures because he's too busy being the Allfather.
Yeah, it does have a little, like, that would be my, you don't have to, because he's the Allfather, you don't have to do the heavy as the head that wears the crown, which is all they've been doing.
Right.
Like, why not just like, I'm the king, I'm going to go out and hunt, like, whatever. Like, he can do that. Who cares? You know who was never heavy as the head? Odin. Odin didn't give a shit. Odin did what Odin followed Odin's whim. And then he'd be like, I'm going to go sleep for a while. Take care of shit. I'm tired.
I mean, it was interesting. He goes to meet this, I guess she's a witch or something.
Some sort of sorcerer, magic person.
Who is the person who's going to bless him as to be the sorcerer supreme of Asgard. And
she has to vouch for him, according to Thor.
And so he goes to meet her, and they have a good conversation. That's when the character shows up. That's when the killer cliffhanger happens. I think this is probably like the 6-issue miniseries. That'd be my guess. And, Strange is now in a spot. He's been in a spot of trouble. And that's interesting.
A bit of bother. Yeah, so that's my, there's not really like, there's some qualifications on it, I suppose, but I think this was a fine issue. It's managing to do that. It found this little wedge of something like, I haven't seen this. You've just put peanut butter and chocolate together in a new way.
Fish out of water story.
Yep. And had some surprises, and it works in the context of what's going on with Doom. So yeah, bring it on. It was a nice bit of comic booking to find.
It's funny, I read it, and then as we're preparing the show and making the graphics, I was like, it's a One World Under Doom crossover, and I went, oh yeah, I guess it is. Only technically, like he's been driven off of being the Earth Source Supreme by Doom, but it really isn't involved in the actual story of one. It doesn't matter.
It gets them out of the way.
It doesn't matter.
Kind
it's
of
my own brain working.
Yeah, it's fine. You got to think about these things. That's what they're there for.
This is why you're doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
The Ultimates number 10 was my pick of the week. I was a little surprised it wasn't yours, considering it's basically an Invaders issue in the.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So the first thing that happens in this is that we sort of see that in this world, a bunch of morons have joined militaristic militias as propaganda by the Red Skull or some version of him,
Mhm.
and the Punisher skulls are everywhere. And I was like, oh, can we not talk about the political ramifications of the Punisher skull as it pertains to the Ultimate Universe? I want to keep that unsullied. We like the Punisher skull has been misappropriated in the real world, and I was like, I don't want to do this.
I get that,
But
but
that was my initial. So when I started it, I was like, I went in the defensive immediately, just like last week. But as I kept going through it, it turned into something I thought that was really good. That there's a shot here. If you were going to make something the pick of the week, it is Namor up on the wall, mounted as a fish.
I think I gasped when I turned the page digitally.
And then
so-
again, an absolutely killer cliffhanger.
So, I thought this issue did lots of things really, really well. First of all, it opens with a really great scene in which the Human Torch, this is Jim Hammond, telling the story of how he burned Hitler alive in the war. And I thought it was a really great page and a really great, if you're going to do a different reality, then play with it. So as they're going to this neo-Nazi encampment, or it's not even a encampment, it's a fucking city with a walled city. They were like, this movement was inspired by the Red Skull, and they appropriated the tactics of and the iconography of 1970s New York City cop turned vigilante Frank Castle, see the Punisher, Summer of Frank. And I thought, man, that's just such a great little, taking all these disparate elements and putting it into a timeline of an alternate Marvel history. And so in this world, Frank Castle was a 1970s, vigilante. The Summer of Frank is such a great phrase for that. And then,
Jerry.
It becomes a bit of a. I think this feels like the first real Avengers adventure, even though we've already had them fighting the Hulk and stuff. But we have Jim Hammond narrating the fight, and we get to see the Wasp really come onto her own. Poor Hank Pym still can't catch a break. And it just felt like they felt like a team. And Tony's there, but he's not there. He's monitoring it as he gets really, really disturbing surgery. And it ends up being I guessed the twist. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I guessed it really early on when they said that
Is there a clue?
They said that the Red Skull was short, and I just went, "Oh, it's Bucky," because they kept showing the flashbacks to the invaders. And
is Bucky still short?
Well, I just in my head, as soon as they said he was not physically imposing, he was short, I went, "Oh, it's Bucky."
Huh. I wouldn't have picked up on that because I think of the Winter Soldier as a tall person. He was short because he was a kid.
Yeah, he says something somewhere. Oh yeah, it says here. It says estimated age 73, estimated height 5'8", and I went, "Oh, it's Bucky." It just popped in my head, so that's when I knew it was him. But yeah, so they killed the Submariner and they have him mounted on the wall like a fish, and I just went, "Oh, that's
not only like a fish, but like with other regular fish."
Right, it's fucked up.
It's fucked up,
but incredible idea, but fucked up. And so of course they have to take down these Nazi assholes, and they do. And I thought it was and then you got Jim Walker in here, John Walker. I think he just got a lot of great disparate Marvel elements put together into an alternate timeline that really makes sense. The fucking Human Torch really burns the hell out of John Walker. That was fucked up.
That was one of those quick reversal things where you introduce like the big nope, he's dead.
He comes in all bulked out because he's like Bane with the venom, like he's all bulked out in super soldier serum. And then the Human Torch just torches his head. Even Cap goes, "Jesus, Jim."
You know what? That was weird to have him say Jesus, I thought. I was like, oh, they wouldn't do that in the normal book. Jesus, Jim. Like, it's such a weird. I really like.
But I thought it was great. They give him a burial at sea. Cap is clearly upset because he knows that Red Skull's Bucky. I don't love Juan Frigeri's model for Cap. He looks like he's about 16. I know he's young and he should be young, but he should be like in his early 20s. He looks really, really young. But other
He's
than that,
5'9".
I thought this was terrific. I thought this was a great one shot. Even though there's probably ramifications, this is like a one shot story. And I thought it was terrific. I really did. It was the only book I loved this week.
I like the take on Jim Hammond in this.
Yeah.
And I think that I actually read the text page, which is like a little bit of Rorschach,
Oh, I did
not
too.
Rorschach, little Dr. Manhattan kind of thing going on
Yeah.
there. But the idea where he says something in the beginning is like, I am the second oldest working computer in the world. And I was
that
like,
was
okay,
really
that's
interesting.
Yep.
So he has to constantly delete information to save space for the new information. So he's constantly deleting memories and skills. That was
Can't
really
we add like a solid state interface at this
right.
point?
You think that Tony would just be like, here's a new hard drive. Here's a backup.
I bet he wouldn't want that. He wouldn't want somebody messing with his business. That's not how Horton did it.
The internet is mankind's shadow made of light.
I can't remember anything. Yeah, that was a good line. I can't remember anything, but I remember Phineas Horton designing the Human Torch. That's right, right?
Can't remember my son's birthday.
I remember my kids' birthdays and my wife's and my anniversary. I'm good with those. Everybody else's, I remember yours. It's a shortening list.
That's fine. We are not unlike Jim Hammond, where we have to constantly decide what stays and what goes.
We're not making decisions about that.
Yeah.
I get to keep 75% of the lines from Seinfeld, and I can't remember where I put my keys.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. I just thought this was great. I'm not knocking your pick. I thought the issue was really fun, but I was really impressed with this because we talked about Ultimate Spider-Man last week or the week before, and this whole overall Maker storyline still makes this entire Ultimate line weird because they don't really deal with it, but they do deal with it, but they don't, but they do.
They're not really though. Like I don't know anything more about it, and again, for the more we don't, the more I don't care, and I feel like it's gonna like upend it.
But this issue was great, and they did mention in the beginning. Somebody in the team was like, "Do we have time for this? Should we deal with the Maker?" And Cap's like, "We always have time to fucking punch Nazis." And I thought that was great. So,
I mean, I think the difference would be between this and the pick is that this book is what it was supposed to be, and the other book was more than it was supposed to be, and so that, in my mind, is
no. I'm not saying you don't.
This was good.
This was
talking about it made me like it more. So,
well, we got more comics coming up. Let's talk about those right after this break. All right, let's talk about the next book on the list, which I don't even know what it is. That's exciting.
Is the Hyde Street?
The Tin Can Society. Is that right?
Well,
it is now.
Okay, Tin Can Society.
We'll go to Hyde Street next.
It's okay. We learn a lot in the Tin Can Society number 6.
We do. That
we didn't know, and I had forgotten, and had to be. It took me a few pages in to remember that the end of the last one, the Ironmonger, that killed him. They broke inside, and there was a baby inside. And
this issue was fucked.
It was totally fucked up. That's the second time you said it this week. We used to do this was a bit we used to do a long time ago when something really weird would happen, and I don't know if we got desensitized or tired of saying it, but we like, this is fucked up. Like that meant a thing. That was show language.
Yeah,
and it's made a reappearance this week twice.
So these people, bad people, created like an alternate suit, metal Iron Man suit, basically. But you need the dude's DNA to run it. The main guy, the guy who was murdered in the first issue, and so they basically make a baby. They take his semen from his girlfriend,
who's awful,
who like saves the condom and gives it to them. And then they impregnate somebody else with it. She has the baby.
So they impregnate a woman who we'd met, like the person that he killed him, I think, in like his first adventure. He was like a bank robber or whatever. He was down on his luck, and she was that guy's sister, so she hated him for it.
And then they put the baby into the suit with all kinds of tubes and wires to keep it alive and going. But basically, it's just like
they also stole the baby from the lady.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking like there's many things that are fucked up, and there's something.
I mean, I'm not even like I know like you and having a kid makes it way worse.
Yeah.
I didn't even need to see the image of the kid with the wires in his back. Like,
right when they said they were like, and I was like, how does that work? And they were like, oh, they put the baby into a coma. I was like, that's fucked up. And then there's a line in here like, I just had nightmares about the kid waking up while it was, while it was killing his father.
Right. So then the baby, I guess, killed his own father in the suit.
Well, the baby was along for the ride.
A couple of things were kind of like, okay, we're like, all of his friends are now kung fu fighters. Like they all took out the mercenaries with their fists.
Mm-hmm.
The one dude has like the metal robot fist. That made sense. But the other guys are all like beating up the
hippie
killers.
teacher in the sweater vest or whatever.
In that 2-page spread. I was like, okay, whatever, that's fine. But then there's a cliffhanger in which another suit of armor appears and the dead guy is in the suit. So I don't know what's happening, but I'm still really enjoying this miniseries.
I thought this was a really good 6. This is the 6th issue is, and remember who's plotting it. He's not writing it, but he's good at this part, at the sort of timing of reveals. I mean, obviously, like 6 is the trade or whatever, and you say this is the thing that happens. So when you're getting the trade, you're going to end up with this cliffhanger,
right?
But also, like, we were just at the point where I don't know if you're in control here, and they're like, shoot, here's everything you need to know up to now, and it was exactly the right time. Several times I remarked to myself, I says, this art is good.
Yeah.
And the colors are really good.
Yeah. I've never even heard of Chris Chukri, but
I've definitely heard that name, because how many Chukris do you meet? But there's not a lot. But the sort of like during the fight, there's just sort of oranges and blues and everything stands out against a background. In fact, there's not a lot of background there, but he makes it into something really useful. The sort of shot where all of the militia folks get zapped, but then the other people aren't. And like geographically in space, the shot makes no sense, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of high and low angles in this. Like that's sort of every single page is, where you're looking at them and from what angle has a lot to do with what they're trying to tell you. And it's a little extreme in that way.
Yeah.
It's a good issue.
It's a good series.
Yep.
It's
a little like, it kind of occurred to me and it kind of hadn't. I was like, they really are getting into just being like an Iron Man thing now. But again, if you're going to do it well, then it's fine.
Right.
I don't really need anybody's take on Iron Man, but whatever. It isn't exactly, but it's very similar. Whatever.
I'm really there's Hyde Street. I'm really into Hyde Street. This is number 4. I am. I'm really into it. It was one of those, they put all those books. This is from Jeff Johns, part of his Geiger verse, for lack of a better term. And he put all those books out, and I wasn't into a lot of them, but Hyde Street had something to it, not just because Ivan Reis is drawing it, but it's this weird Twilight Zone book. I don't even need the backstory stuff. I don't need the characters' dealings. I just am enjoying these stories they're telling.
Well, that was the thing I was going to say, is that I don't really care about the overarching story. I don't really care about the evil Boy Scout kid too much. Right. The framing devices of the whole thing. But as I sort of went through this one, I thought, this is a great little...
And the last one was too. Issue 3 was terrific.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling these amazing little single stories. This one's about an actor who gets cast to play the brother of Frankenstein in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein's Brother in 1949.
No, he is Frankenstein, but then they want to keep the character alive, so they say, okay, but he's like, but Frankenstein's dead, and they was like, okay, so you'll be the brother of Frankenstein.
Right, that's
so
what I mean.
He's got to go through it
brother.
again.
Yeah,
and it's the typecast actor. And then there's that really cool scene where the director is like, no, you're doing it all with your eyes. It really is great. And he feels good about himself. And then, his ego gets the better of him. He makes a huge mistake because he's, it's a Twilight Zone story. It's 100% what that is.
His insecurity gets the better of him. Like, I don't even care about anything. Like, this is a fun little Hollywood tale where he is, he hates his job, but he hasn't had a job ever. This is his first big break, and like you said, he gets a really nice compliment from people he respects about his work, but then he blows it, and there's terrible consequences. And now he's living in the fucking Hyde Street, which I don't care
Well,
about.
but the thing is, though, is that it's a great story, but then when he sort of gets transported to Hyde Street, when he's turned into this kind of monster,
He basically is Frankenstein's monster in Hyde Street.
Yeah, and at that point, I kind of was like, yeah, I don't care about this part so much.
Right. Like, this part, I did like the part with the girl because it's a mirror of the actual Frankenstein story, the little girl with the flowers. But she, instead of killing her by accident, throwing her in the river, she gives him a compliment about his eyes, which is what the compliment the director gave him. And that sort of, I don't know if it removed him from the game because he doesn't really play the game. He doesn't.
Well, he refuses to play the game, and then
Right.
whoever the guy is, I don't know, the card dealer who's in charge.
Yeah,
he's got the visor and the casino outfit. And then he gets his superhero costume. Basically, is he one of the characters like with the red coat, the whatever? Is he in the timeline?
I don't think he is, but I don't know.
There's two universes that Jeff has going here. I think
they're all in the same one. Whether they cross over or not is
no. I think there's two lines, like the Rockefellers. Yeah, that's not part of the Geiger play line. I think, and Hornsby and Halo is part of the Rockefellers, but it's not that. I think.
I don't know.
The other issues have more of a timeline. By the way, they really put in a bunch of old comic book ads and things in the back and did a lot of design work that was probably way more work than it's going to be worth to the readers, but I appreciate it.
I just thought this was a really great single story, and it's, again, we say it every time, but this is like Jeff Johns doing just not Jeff Johns stuff.
This is a 50s comic. This is a 50s comic, like an EC comic.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the cover there, that typeface and iconography and the composition and everything is straight out of old horror comics.
Terrific. I thought it was fun. Really fun.
Oh, that's me now.
Now it's your turn.
You're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, this is a listener and viewer supported enterprise we're dealing with right now, and there's a bunch of ways that you can help contribute and maybe get a little something for yourself. You can directly support the show over at patreon.com/ifanboy. You can be part of a great community that we have there, both on Discord and Facebook. You get to vote on the patron pick. You can get a patron power live on this show. This will happen later. It's like
I'm so happy it's your week. I was like, oh shit, do I need a power? So, no,
that's
not your week.
That's fine. At $10 or higher, you're going to add free version of the show. Plus, you get the show a day early on Saturday. You can add free versions of every show. Yeah, that's true.
But this show a day early.
Yes. You get access to the iFanboy after show on Sundays, where we talk about the books that didn't make the rundown for this show. Shorter one this week.
Last week the show was 20 minutes, so it's not nothing. It's a fairly substantial extra show,
which was not the plan. And it is a discount.
18 books.
Discount if you purchase one full year, and you can send in or receive those as gift memberships to patreon.com/ifanboy for more info. Thank you so much to everybody who takes part in that. You're a wonderful positive influence on our lives. ifanboy.threadless.com is our merch store where we have 20 designs that we put on t-shirts and all sorts of other stuff. They put them on there, your phone cases and shower curtains and bath mat rugs, and we've seen examples of all these things, and it never ceases to please me and tickle me that these things exist from our stupid little ideas. There are 7 new designs on the way this year.
Nope. 7 came out last year.
Oh, okay.
You're so used to saying that from last year. They came already.
That's fine. That's good, because I was like, I didn't want to promise 7 because that seems like a bad idea.
We mentioned last week that we had 2 coming. We were getting test shirts. We got those test shirts. And it's good that we got the test shirts, because one of them we didn't like the way it printed. We didn't like the way the red printed, so we're getting it. We have to change it. This is what happens when you make shirts. So the 2 more are coming soon.
And because I remember Dr. Phineas Horton, I don't remember any of that. ifanboy.com/support is the direct PayPal link that you can donate through if you don't want to deal with any of that other stuff. There's ifanboy.com/Amazon shopping affiliate link if you want to buy stuff and you think you can go through our link. That doesn't cost you anything. It's nice and easy. Thank you for that. And bookshop.org, which is a local bookstore aggregator. If you want to order books online and you want to buy them from local bookstores, that is the place to do it. We will make that link on the website wherever it is appropriate at the time that the link is made. Let's get back to these things.
I was yawning earlier because I was up way too late reading the Lauren biography. I couldn't. It's hard to put down.
Yeah, I feel the same way about
G.I. Joe.
when I think I'm probably up to about 86, 87 in G.I. Joe.
We have a book split coming up. Hopefully you're making time for that as well. Let's talk about
do all 4 compendiums.
The Spectacular Spider-Man 13, Greg Weisman and Emilio Lazo. And I wanted to mention because, Josh and I loved Zeb Wells' run on Amazing Spider-Man. The current placeholder run until they reboot it has been less than ideal. And so for now, I'm getting my Spider-Man kicks over here with Spectacular Spider-Man. It's really fun. It features classic villains. Right in this issue, you've got Lizard, you've got Electro, you've got Electro Lady, and it's a good time with Peter and Miles hanging out, being buddies. And it's written by Greg Weisman, who wrote some great cartoons. I just like this book. I just think it's fun. There's consequences. It's been one long story, but it's been a fun one. And you've got, Electro romance. The Electros are in love, and one of them wears big boots, but the other one's got his classic Electro costume because it's one.
That's one.
So if you're looking for Spider-Man action,
if it is one though.
Well, what I was thinking while
I was thinking you needed to refocus your face.
I'm fixing that. Well, what I was thinking while reading the book was, if Electro is one, what is Spider-Man?
Yes.
Okay, I think Spider-Man is yes. That's right.
Yeah, that's clearly.
Yeah. Yes. So there you go. Spectacular. I'm just really enjoying it. I know we don't mention it very often, but it's been a fun. I particularly like this where this arc is going right now, with the Lizards and with the Electros and with some consequences for the new hero, and I think it's been a fun series. Let's move on to Usagi Yojimbo 280, or the 10,000 Plums #1.
Yeah, part 1 of 5. These are about the lengths of these stories.
Did we determine if this is the old or new work?
This is new work.
This is new work.
This is new work. It's
right,
the number. The number, yeah.
It was some Usagi. Oh no, it's the Space Usagi that's old work.
Space Usagi. So I want to just say I enjoyed Space Usagi quite a bit.
Yep.
It was fine. It was a lark, whatever.
Yep.
I would say one of my happier moments this past week, and my birthday was this past week, but
was it the cake?
I mean, I enjoy cake, but what I'm telling you is that when I checked the list and I saw that there was a new standard Usagi Yojimbo issue coming out, I was like, yes, because Stan Sakai is not young. No. And he's been doing this book for almost as long as I've been alive. And every time a new one comes out,
he's 71 years old.
It is a great gift. And it is a great joy to me. And I don't need to make this pick of the week. I don't necessarily need to talk about it. But I'm going to tell you, I was so happy that there was another issue out. It makes me so, like, it has become my comic book comfort food.
Stan Sakai 71, Larry Hama 75.
And I'm going to tell you, I've been reading old ones, ones from 20 years ago or whatever.
G.I. Joe?
No, Usagi's.
Oh.
I've been going through them and there's no difference. Like, they didn't get worse.
Right.
They don't feel like they could all, you can mix them all up. That's the thing about Usagi. If you're like, I don't want to do any, read any of them. It doesn't matter.
We've always said that. I did have a question.
Yes.
I don't want to go into it probably, and you can feel free to tell me it does not
I also
matter.
don't need them to be in color. Just, I'm not mad, but.
Feel free to tell me it doesn't matter and not worry about it. Because I'm not the Usagi expert. I've probably read less than 50 issues of Usagi Jimbo. I've liked all of them I read, including this issue. This issue opens with a mother and a kid fox, and the kid's sick. So the mother wants to get some medicine, so she leaves the kid fox in like a barn, and she goes to the village, and then she turns into a fox person. Have we seen that? Like, are these anthropomorphized animal people, demons. Or are they animals who transform into people?
They're demon gods. Every once in a while, some demons or gods will show up, sort of Japanese.
So this fox lady is a demon god,
probably one or the other. She's some sort of mystical spirit being.
Because I was like, wait, did they all transform?
she's gonna like this is gonna be like the thing where because they wouldn't help her, the village is going to be cursed or something like that, and then I don't know, Usagi
As they
will,
should. They're assholes.
yeah,
They were assholes about it.
yeah. Historically, not a friendly people. No, I don't know if I can say that. It's just a very different culture. That's what I
Well,
was
they all the upper class for sure.
sure.
They were like, get that beggar out of here.
Yep. No,
Is
I
this
had
a-
the same thought. I had to kind of remember myself. Like, oh, I was like, oh, this is like this. I don't know if he wrote it in here, but usually he'll be like, oh, this came from like when the trade comes out, there'll be a little essay about what this is all based in
Sure, yeah.
history and legend and lore,
I think
etc.
he
I
usually
have to
has a
point
little
out.
essay in the back.
I have to tell you something else that's fantastic.
Uh-huh.
My kids
Good cover.
don't like anything that I like.
Right.
And I don't have a lot of comic books. They read comics, but their own kind of things or whatever. And I tried to give my older son the Usagi Yojimbo book, the first like big volume of the Dark Horse Omnibus, and he never read it, but that's not surprising. My other son was looking for something to read, and I was like, please, he'll be 11 soon. And I was like, you're going to enjoy. I know he is. Like, I know he's going to enjoy it. I know he won't read, and then, I came in later and he's reading it, he's halfway through it. And I was like, you like it, don't you? He's like, yes. And he finished that first big omnibus.
Nice.
He's finally got one of my kids to read a comic book I love. It's
now
just,
give him Lone Wolf and Cub.
I considered it, but there's a little bit of rape in the early ones. And,
not great for the kids. Let's move on.
I would have read that at his age though. Like that would not have. Yeah,
it was a different world back then. I think this is our first Star Wars corner of the new era.
Yeah,
Star Wars Jedi Knights #1 of the cover that made me viscerally angry.
Well, so I'm gonna. I always digress from you on this one. It is not a great cover. Boy, that is. I don't enjoy it. Who did that? Let's see. Who did this cover? It is Raza.
RZA did it?
I wish it was. If it was RZA, I wouldn't be able to say anything bad about it. He's always on point with the beats, the rhymes, whatever. And that's a 36 Chambers reference for those of you paying attention. I saw a reel this week where somebody went around and asked like kids in a school that was like, what does the Wu-Tang Clan say you need to protect? And it's protect your neck. It's and like none of the kids knew it. Most of the adults didn't know it. The only guy who knew it without even thinking about it and then spit some verse after that was an old white man. And I went, all right, that's fair. Anyway, so Star Wars Jedi Knights #1, it is telling stories of the Jedi and the Jedi Knights that we came to know in the prequel, in the first prequel. Sure. So you would consider this around the time of the Phantom Menace, probably a little bit before it. So it's just a straight up Jedi in the old time of the Jedi Republic, just doing Jedi shit.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't bad.
Well, it wasn't. Mark Guggenheim's a very good comic writer.
He's a very good comic writer, and this wasn't all mucked up in explaining things or fitting them in between. It's just like, we're going to tell a story about the Jedi trying to get in between some space wars that they're trying to get stopped.
It appears that the art is by a Star Wars character.
Madabek Muzabakov. Could be. Yeah, that's not wrong. We've talked. I have very mixed feelings about The Phantom Menace. The other two movies, I can say these are terrible movies, and I never need to watch them again. But because it's just like a Stockholm syndrome with The Phantom Menace. I saw it 10 times in the theater. I pretty much know it by heart, and I will tell you, it is not a good movie. It is boring. I love it a little bit, though. You know what I mean? Like, not in the way that, like,
I don't.
If
I saw it 10 times with you. I don't. I can't.
I know, but I'm saying, like, if you're 10 years younger than me, you love it in a different way than I do. You love it probably more like
they also like the Power Rangers. I can't.
No, exactly. That's fine, but I love it in a way. And maybe there's a nostalgia to it. Maybe there's, when I was younger, but like I know it. And so I didn't mind this. I was kind of like, okay, if you're gonna, it's not really tying into the mythology. It's like, let's tell. I remember being whatever age, 22, and all these new characters came out and we were psyched, like, oh man, we get to see adventures with these characters. But it ended up being about trade negotiations. There was a negotiation joke in here, but like, wouldn't we have been cool to just see all these Jedi go do Jedi shit? And Obi-Wan's the Padawan.
The second one, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, but whatever. In comic book form, you're in, you're out, you dip in, you get to see some Star Wars stuff. If it's not
Did you
great,
pick
whatever.
this up because you're reading all Star Wars #1s, or because of your Phantom Menace Stockholm syndrome?
I don't read all Star Wars books. I
Okay.
look at it and I decided based on what I read and it being a light week, I was like, you know, I'll give it a shot.
Mhm.
Most of them, especially the ones that are not heavily movie based,
Mhm.
and I really stick to original trilogy for the most. But anyway, like I don't know. For what I don't go for all of them. A lot of the sort of new stuff that has been invented, especially in the comic world, I don't even care. But this was fun. It was fine.
All right.
It was fine, which is what you expect out of it, you know.
That was Star Wars Corner. We'll be back after the next break talking about the Patron Pick. All right, so those are the books we wanted to talk about, but at patreon.com/iFanboy, every patron gets a vote to add a book to the rundown, and there is a very strong Godzilla contingent happening in the patrons, which we need to root out.
And it can't be worse than the Great Gatsby crossover.
Because this week's
actually, it can be, was the Skate or Die, which was the worst comic ever written.
This week's Patron Pick was Mothra, Queen of the Monsters, #1 by Sophie Campbell, with art by Matt Frank and Sophie Campbell, letters by Nathan Wittick, published by IDW. And we had a Godzilla book 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. There's a contingent that wants to do it. They want to pick it every time there's a Godzilla book.
What was the last one? That's how much it made effect.
It was
Phineas Horton
book. Some Godzilla book. I don't even.
Seriously, I don't remember.
I don't either. I don't keep
that
track.
Tells you something.
All right, so Mothra, Queen of the Monsters.
Yeah.
I don't have any particular feelings for Mothra.
I hate it. And that's not because of experience. I hate that it's a giant bug, and I hate the sound it makes.
Oh, I see. my Godzilla fandom was when I was a kid. We had a VHS taped off TV of the original Americanized original Godzilla, with one that they added Perry Mason to, and I watched that movie a million times. I love that movie. I love that original 60s Godzilla. I like Godzilla -1. That's the extent of my Godzilla fandom. I don't have any experience with the other monsters because I only watched that one movie over and over again.
That Kong x Godzilla movie, that was a good time.
Those were bad.
That day
I tried the new Godzilla one.
No, they're bad. They're bad.
I tried the Kong versus Godzilla. They were all bad because I want to recapture that love. And it was Godzilla -1. That's a legitimately great Godzilla movie.
Did you watch any of that Monarch show?
No.
It wasn't bad. I didn't get far, but that wasn't its fault.
Anyway, so I know nothing about Mothra. I know nothing about the other ones whose names I can't think of at the moment. What I did like about this issue was the art. I thought the art was terrific. I thought it really reminded me of like 2000s Image stuff, like a little Stoko, a little bit of Prophet. Who the guy who drew that? I can't remember his name. I liked the art quite a bit. That's about all I liked about the book. I didn't really like the story. I thought that I had some big problems with the story, and
the coloring was actually really good.
Well, yeah, that's part of the art. It was all by art.
Yeah, no, I know. Just pointing it out. I don't think this is a bad comic book. I think it was a good comic book that I didn't really care about.
So the whole thing is that this family gets killed by Mothra fighting this ant creature when Mothra died. I didn't know Mothra died. Like there wasn't a lot of backstory here.
I don't know that matters.
It doesn't really matter. So it's his parents and these two girls, Emmy and whatever the main character's name is. The building falls on everybody but the main character. So she's now grown up. It's been 15 years, and she's living like a hollowed out bug. And it's like a post-apocalyptic society scrounging for food and stuff.
Is she living in Mothra's head?
Is that Mothra?
I mean, it looks like it.
And it could be.
Why wouldn't it be gross,
bigger,
and
rotting
and rotting? Yeah.
Anyway, the thing that I had the biggest problem with story-wise was that her sister comes back from basically the dead. Not literally, but her sister reappears after 15 years of her thinking she's dead, and it was very blasé. She was like, "Oh, you're back." Mm-hmm. Like I was expecting a much bigger, more emotionally crippling reaction if you thought your sister had died 15 years ago. Now here she is all painted up with a bunch of fairy creatures doing magic. It was just like, oh, I thought based on the reaction, she had gone for milk. Like that's like the
Right.
extent of
And she was like, I'm mad at you.
like the reaction of her appearing was more like, oh, you went to get groceries and now you're back. It wasn't like, oh, you're back after 15 years and I thought you were dead. That was not the reaction that the character has. So I thought that was really not well done. But other than that, I thought everything else story-wise was okay.
I mean, it's fair that if you live in a post-apocalyptic hellscape, you're going to be pretty guarded at that point.
Yeah, but also like you've got no joy in your life. So the one thing that maybe brings you some joy, your returned little sister might bring
Live in
you
a
back. I don't
bughead
know.
for 15 years after your family's dead. You're going to not have normal reactions.
I was having trouble figuring out how this connected to Godzilla at the beginning. Like I said, I don't know anything about Mothra,
So Mothra's just another one of those creatures that's supposed to protect the earth like Godzilla is, and they fight. And I don't know. My thing is I really want to like Godzilla. I don't. I just don't. And I want to because I really like the idea of it.
Watch Godzilla -1, and if you don't like that, then you're not gonna like Godzilla.
Yeah. I've been planning to do that since it showed up on streaming however many years ago. Hasn't happened yet. I'll tell you my little problem that I had, and I can't tell if it's my fault or not. But we are introduced. The girl shows up, and we're introduced to these two girls who are the priestesses of Mothra, and it was not clear to me that they were tiny.
Yeah.
And then so later they disappeared, and I never saw them in the front of the girl's like pouch, I guess. But then they went to go get them, and then the girl picks them up in her hands, and I was like, "Wait a minute, they're tiny!" Like I hadn't.
You didn't miss it because if you look at the page where Emmy appears, she takes her hood off, and there she is. We see the little fairies creatures
in the bag,
yeah, but there's no context art to make it really clear that's where they are.
The page before that, though, when she's like, "Can we really tell? We really can't tell her everything." And they say, "No, not yet." Now you can see now that I'm looking at it, it's an insert that's pointing to the backpack, which is where they are.
Yeah,
it's a good drawing, but everything's so busy that like maybe those details need attention called to them more. And I know, like, I think the art's great, but because of it being really good and being really I don't know. Everything is sort of textured. There's a lot going on all over the page.
Pages are busy, but in a good way. And on page 12, you can see them in the context of the bag.
Yeah,
but it's a very small piece of that page.
But in the page, I guess they are. You can see them little. You know what? I just missed it. I'm gonna put that on me, I think, and that's not really a problem. I can see that they put it in there, but I just bumped on. I was like, "What's going on here?"
I just think that there was not a lot of world building. And that would be part of the world building, even if just character building. There wasn't a lot of like.
I don't really have a problem with it. Like it's one of those things like we're thrown into it. I'm glad they didn't spend a lot of time explaining it. I kind of got where they were at. We don't know where these things come from. I thought it's another good sort of end of story cliffhanger. I think happened here. Like they made a bad decision to just trust these two little weird magic things, and then they disappear and go back in time. And then the structure's pretty good because at the beginning, the first thing is, can we tell her everything? And they're like, no. And I was like, they're playing you too. So I don't know who's with who's the bad guy. I know that the main characters are screwed. They go back in time. Can you do that in Godzilla World? I don't know. But like at this point, it's wide open though. Do whatever you want. Like throw it to the wall, whatever.
I give them credit for being one of the few places to actually show dinosaurs as we maybe believe it to look now, colorful and covered in feathers and not your Jurassic Park style dinosaurs. I give them credit for that. I thought this looked terrific. I really did. I was really impressed by the art. It's funny because Matt Frank and Sophie Campbell have very similar styles. Sophie does the magic scenes, but didn't look that much different than Matt's pages.
Yeah, I see it. Okay,
but not that much different stylistically.
And she's done some books. Like she's not new. I thought it was pretty good, but like enough that it's kind of fooling me. Maybe I should see what happens next, but I don't really care. So I give the book credit for that because I thought it was a good enough structure and plot and sort of ending. It's pretty good. I think if you like this, you're
really
gonna like
going all in on Godzilla. There's Godzilla vs. Chicago. There's Godzilla versus the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I saw Godzilla versus Chicago here at the end. It says featuring all written and illustrated entirely by Chicago comic creators, and I was like, all right, I accept that. That's kind of cool.
What is
But
your rating on
you've just
Mothra?
really shrunk your audience. You know, maybe.
What is your Mothra Queen of the Monsters rating? Out of 5 ratings.
3.
I was going 2.75.
Yeah, I could have gone there, but I think that
I think you're more of a 3.
I think that's fair.
All right. Well, are you sticking with it? No, sorry, that's the last question. The second question is, would you have read this if it wasn't Patron Pick?
Lord, no.
No, definitely not.
Not a chance in hell. It's about a giant bug.
It's also a good cover, even if it is a giant bug in the cover. It's a good cover.
It's a fuzzy bug.
Are you sticking with it? No, I'm not.
No. I mean, unless like the next time it comes out, it's a week like this where we got like 7 books, then it doesn't hurt to check in. But
all right, there you go. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks, patrons, for voting for Mothra, Queen of the Monsters. Thanks for all patrons who participate in the voting. Every patron gets a vote to add a book to their rundown. But if you're a patron at the $5 or higher level, you get a patron power given to you live on the show. It's called the Patron Power. And this week's patron is Nick Drummer.
Our man Nick Drummer has the ability to swap places physically, not unlike Captain Marvel and Rick Jones.
Okay.
With anybody else in the world living named Nick.
Oh, but does he have to know who they are?
Nah, I mean, no. Give me a Nick. If he does,
you know how like Nightcrawler needs to see the place he's jumping to.
Nah, maybe that's it. He just randomly like finds a Nick.
Just
and
like,
by the way, if it's a person named Nicholas who doesn't like to ever be called Nick, can't do that one.
Oh, so
but a Nick,
not Saint Nicholas.
I mean, the question is where and why would you use this? This morphed a little from my initial idea, but then I decided I didn't like my initial idea.
This is like a Dial H for Hero kind of power where he doesn't know what he's going to get if he just he just switches with any Nick.
Well, after it occurred to me that is a type of, because we're reading another book with Firestorm in it, and Firestorm gets like called out of what he's doing to be like where the professor wants him, and there's a lot of those in comics. I realized your Rick Jones one, they did it, and then Carol, that's her new version of that was the same thing. I was like, it's such a disturbing thing. So Nick's out there. Maybe see, the thing is, it's hard to figure out a way to use it for good. Like if some shit's about to go down that's bad,
right?
He's just gonna put another Nick there.
He's like, I'm not like,
Nick's not a friend to Nick's.
Let other Nick deal with this.
Yeah. But that's what it is, you know.
Your old roommate's out of luck here.
Yeah, he could be, or he could be fine.
He's directing a film, and all of a sudden,
he'd be on the movie set.
All of a sudden, he's fighting crime or whatever happens to Nick Drummer.
Nick Drummer can switch. I mean, I could have gone with a Nick or with a drummer joke. I could have had him switch with drummers.
No, that's beneath
that would have been good. He could have switched with drummers. No, it's Nick's though. It's absolutely Nick's.
Thanks for being a patron, Nick. Patreon.com/iFanboy is where he did it, and we appreciate you doing so. And if you give it the $5 or higher level, you get a superpower live in the show, like Nick just did. All right, you're the producer, man. What do you want to do? Do you want to do?
I want to do these. I do. Read the first one.
The first email comes from Michael R. What's your opinion on underground cartoonist Robert Crumb and his work? Have you seen the documentary on Crumb by Terry Zwigoff? I know you've read the work that he did with Harvey Pekar for American Splendor based on one of the iFanboy video episodes. Crumb is going to appear and speak around the country because a new biography on him by Dan Nadel will be released in April. I'll be going with my boomer parents and hopefully getting my copy signed by him. I'll be watching the documentary again with them, and I'm sharing whatever of Crumb's work I can find with them. My copy of Zap Comics #0, library copies of Crumb's American Splendor, and the illustrated book of Genesis. Michael R.
Do you have an opinion of Crumb?
Yeah, I mean he's a legend.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about a critical opinion of a person.
I mean,
like
he's amazing. The art is. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's it's like saying, what is your opinion of Jack Kirby? He's Crumb. He's
all right. No. Let's take a different place. Like, have you read a lot of it? Are you attracted to it? Does it do anything for you?
I haven't read a lot in like at least 20 years. I probably haven't read any Crumb in like 20 years.
I take nothing away from the man. I think it is incredibly important stuff. I think that the art style is uniquely singular and wonderful. And it looks like what it is and what it's trying to say. He is a person unlike anyone. But I don't really care for it. I don't
Okay.
dislike it, but I've never like
The
felt
art or the
the
work?
subject matter mostly.
Mhm.
Like I don't feel the need. Like it's all very much based in that sort of, that 60s counterculture stuff, which doesn't really resonate with me all that much.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I saw the documentary forever ago. By the way, just a little math. I wanted to tell you about this,
Mm.
and it's painful. So just get ready. When this person asked about Crumb and said that, oh, he's traveling, he's doing whatever, I was like, oh, Crumb's still alive, because I saw that documentary in 1994. So let's say maybe I saw it a couple years after that, but 30 years ago.
Right.
Do you know how old he was in that documentary? Which I think back as like, he was pretty old then. He
I'll
was
say
50, 51.
Oh, I was gonna say 40, but yeah.
Yeah, no, he's all right. Um, and so I was a little surprised about that, and that makes me upset. I love that documentary, but I didn't come out of it thinking. I came out of it appreciating his work, and actually, I feel the same way about Harvey Pekar. I didn't come out of it thinking I want to read more of this.
Right.
Like he's a fascinating subject, but it's not something I
Yeah, Crumb's
gravitate
81 years
towards.
old currently.
Yeah.
I think I was more interested in I think it all depends on your tolerance for underground comics with an X, right? Like it's very much emblematic of the comics with an X scene, um, which is something I think I was much more interested in when I was younger.
Well, it felt more edgy then,
Right.
but
Like
it gets by on edginess a lot more
in the
because
80s, it was very much like, oh, have you read Crumb?
Mhm.
That kind of thing. And that was when it was um you're in high school with I had my clique of college comic reading friends in high school, all of us in the art club. And it was like because you're going through the edgy comics of the day, and that was Crumb was having a renaissance in the 80s. So I think back then the underground comic scene was a much more interesting, at least to me,
Mhm.
than the older I got, less interesting.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it never really spoke to me all that much. I take nothing away from it.
but
That is not
he's a legitimate legend and a
Oh,
genius.
100%. And
Yeah.
as comparing him to Kirby, most of the time I would say you shouldn't do that to anybody, but I don't think it's wrong in this instance if you're talking about his genre, his field,
Yeah.
his space. He is that guy.
He's the Kirby of underground comics.
He's the Beatles of underground comics, like he is. And he's a fascinating human, and his brother was super fucked up, and that movie haunts me. I've seen it a few times, and every time I'm like, wow, you know? But that's kind
Yeah.
of my interest in it. It was not a thing that made like, I can't wait to read more of this guy's stuff. Um, yeah.
I get
So I hope
that.
that's fair.
I think that's fair.
Um,
I think that's
you
a
can't
fair
like
answer.
everything, I guess. So we're gonna go through this. This is a question that could lead to a very long discussion, but I want to
Oh, we
play
are
this.
gonna do it.
Yeah, we are. I want to do it lightning
Okay.
round style. So I'm
Okay.
going to take you through this. Greg M from Philly writes in and he says, below is a list of 10 things you might see drawn in a comic book. And for each item on the list, name an artist who you think draws that item exceptionally well, or at least above average. He says, I just wanted to point out, we're going to go through the list, talk about it, and we're going to get out. I've been thinking about this since the discussion of Bad Pizza started with the first issue of Tom Taylor's Nightwing run. By the way, that is a bellwether legendary event in iFanboy history.
So we're not gonna put the list on the screen. You're gonna read the list.
Yeah, I'll read the list, okay?
Okay.
And then
All
you
right.
tell me what you think, and I'm gonna answer it.
Okay.
All right.
No
This is the
prep here.
artist,
No prep.
the artist that comes to mind when you hear this word, because they
Yep.
do it well in your mind. Okay,
Okay.
Cars,
Sean Murphy.
Sean Murphy, exactly. Monsters,
Oh, jeez.
I'm gonna give you mine. It's Tom Fowler.
That's a good one.
Tom Fowler
All I
does
started seeing in my head was IDW Godzilla, and just
right,
looked at them all.
right.
So I'll say I don't know. I'm
I mean,
passing
you
on
could
that
say
one.
Kirby. You could say
I thought about
Ryan
Kirby.
Hitch.
I thought about Kirby.
Future technology, robots, spaceships,
Kirby.
etc. Yeah, as soon as I said Kirby, I couldn't think of anybody else. So that's kind of
But I still think it's the best because it's the most comic booky.
Yeah.
It's not drawn
Clothing.
for clothing. McKelvey.
Oh, you didn't say Gary Frank.
No, I just think of McKelvey drawing more.
That's fair.
when
I
he
just when you always said like I like how Gary Frank draws the superhero
I
costumes,
love
so they
it.
look like
I'm just
fabric.
saying the thing that popped in my head was McKelvey because when he was coming on the scene, he was drawing actually real modern clothing as opposed
Right.
to most
Nope,
comic artists.
agree. Fight scenes.
Fight scenes. Who does
Fight
the best
scenes.
choreographed fight scenes?
I'm going to tell you who came to mind. I'm not entirely
Okay.
sure why. Mazzucchelli.
That's interesting.
Year One, Born
Yeah.
Again, they have like legendary fight scenes in them. They're very down to earth. They're not like but they're more like, you know, fist. Like think about the shots of Wilson Fisk beating up the ninjas with no shirt on or whatever, whoever he's beating up in that. Like that was what I thought of.
I'm saying quietly.
Nice.
The Batman and Robin fight scenes were great.
This is want to know where we align. Sexy ladies.
Darwin.
Oh, I was gonna say Frank Cho.
I mean, yeah, sure.
No one draws a more beautiful woman than Frank Cho.
I think everything Darwin is. There's a sexiness to all of Darwin's work.
Would you say the same thing about the next item? Sexy dudes.
Darwin. His dudes are sexy, but like they have been beat up.
Yeah. Like what you think of as like cool sexy.
I had a coworker who she said that the guy she was most attracted to looked like he'd been punched in the nose. Like that was her kind of guy, and that's I feel like
so you got Greg Smallwood as the runner up there.
Oh yeah, I would. Greg Smallwood would be up there. Yeah, sure.
Either of those, by the way.
Also, Darwin could be the answer to all these questions. Good.
Which brings us next to dinosaurs. This one's harder. I can't
think of any dinosaurs.
I could punt this.
I mean, isn't there the Runaways character as a dinosaur?
Yeah, but that's just one.
I'm trying to think of any kind of dinosaur in a comic, and it's
again. I mean, so you know what? I was trying to think about what popped in my head, and I thought, is that Kirby? And it wasn't. It's Darwin from New Frontier.
Oh yeah. I mean, I told you Darwin could be the answer to all these questions.
It's true. Size scaling. This I feel like
this is your doing.
Yeah, I feel like this one I influenced.
I'm trying to think of anybody we've mentioned.
Brian Hitch.
Awesome with Brian Hitch. Brian Hitch.
Brian Hitch is my answer. He could have also been my answer for several of these, if I'm really being honest about it. Fight scenes, certainly. The other kind of fight scene, like the big massive fight scene, you could do Brian Hitch. Sure. I don't have an answer for this. Food.
Do you remember that Brian Wood? Was it Brian Wood? That food book?
Oh, right.
That was really good. Who drew that? It was Zajic or
no, it's a more cartoony, like a Brian Rolston kind of guy. Steve Rolston?
No, it wasn't. It was dark. It was shadowy. Starve, drawn by who's drawing Starve?
Wow, that you remembered that. It was like Paul Pope or somebody.
It's Daniel Zejil.
Oh, JJ. Daniel JJ. I remember how to pronounce that.
Daniel
I'm gonna give you two, and I don't know that they're good at it, but it's what came to mind for both of them. Dave Sim, who would draw roasted haunches of meat in barbarian style. He did.
He did.
He did the best.
Meat is meat, and this is not meat.
Meat is meat. And what Service wants is meat. This is not meat. It's hard for me not to think of that. And then I'm also going to go with Stan Sakai. Food is a huge part of Usagi Yojimbo.
It is.
Because they're going from town to town, is always farming and villagers, and they need to get food, and there's sake, and like there's always really specific food that they're talking about that is Japanese and period correct and what they had. And like in this week's issue, it's about this certain kind of tea or something. There's something it's like candy stuff it's made with.
The plums are
the plums, and like there's an essay about it in the back. And so putting food in comics, he's one of the first people I think of.
That's a great answer because it makes me want to have sushi, and I haven't had it in a while.
All right, well, there you go.
Are we done?
No, we did them all. We did 10. I thought that was a really good question. I want to make sure we fit it.
No, that was a good question. I like
these. New.
I like when they make us play games.
Yep. Okay, so thank you very much for writing in. We would love to hear from you also. contact@ifanboy.com is the email address. I think you know how email works. I'm not going to I'm not gonna make you feel bad trying to explain it to you. Yes, patronize. That was the word I couldn't think of. If you want to write to our Media Splode show, put Media Splode shockingly in the subject line. Thanks for the questions. We could use. You want to send some more? I sense like you've had some good questions. Like send the ones out.
We had a really fun one on the last Media Explode show, which was this past week. So if you want to hear the last Media Explode, was right behind the show on the feed. We talked about this year's Oscars. We all about movies experiences in the theaters and about walking out of movies. Apparently, never hating a movie in the theater. It was a very interesting conversation. Got a little contentious. We also talked about many TV shows and things. It was a good show. 2 weeks before that one was Josh's Talksplode interview with Scott Snyder. Long one. They got deep into Scott's career and his feelings about and the way he felt while having that career, the ups and downs of it. Really in depth. If you're a Scott Snyder fan or just a fan of the industry, it's worth listening to. And then some indeterminate time before that was the Captain America: Brave New World review, a movie that I have completely forgotten that I went to see. If you listen to the Media Explode, I say that I had not been to the movies.
I had a day,
which is wrong.
I had a day where I had nothing to do, and I was out of work. I'm not out of work, but I had the day off.
Wait, what?
And the kids were out of school, and I was like, it was raining and shitty, and it's February, and I was like, we go to the movies, I guess. And there was nothing.
There's nothing
except Captain America, and I was like, I don't want to go. I didn't. We went and saw Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban the next day.
I see.
Which was a much better use of time.
And now we're into March, and we've got some shows for you. Actually, this very week coming up is our Booksplode review of Legends, the Len Wein, John Ostrander, John Byrne DC event that came after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
It's like right after, right?
It's right after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
It's the event they used to basically set the new status quo of DC after the Crisis. So looking forward to that. And then coming the very week after, finally, is our Watchmen Chapter 2 review. Me and Dr. Ryan Haupt closing out the DC Universe animated original series of movies that began way back in, I think, 2008 with Watchmen Chapter 2. So you can check that out coming in 2 weeks. And then there'll be a Media Split at some point in March as well.
You are able to find our entire library of a crap load of shows at ifanboy.com.
Scientific term.
Yeah, it is. Well, a metric shit ton is the accepted term, but we wanted to not be, we wanted to be civil.
Sure.
Wherever podcasts are sold, downloaded, distributed, whatever it is you use to listen to, those are all around everywhere. You can never miss a show, and you can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out by following us at ifanboy.com, at iFanboy Comics on Instagram and Threads, ifanboy.com on Blue Sky, and you can follow Connor and I individually. Wow.
Is this where the cold medicine kicks in?
No, my mouth's dry.
That's what I got water.
Instagram, CS Kilpatrick and J.A. Flanagan. It's over here.
You ended right as I took a sip. Please consider writing us a review or leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, wherever they're sold. If you're listening on Pocket Cast, you need to be subscribed and have downloaded a few episodes before you can rate it. Subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy, where you can watch the video version of this show as well, and also all of our shows that we put out, except for this Talksplode, as well as our special edition shows. And you can find an archive of all our old video shows that we did from 2007 2012. We're much more thin and handsome back then. And finally,
handsome.
Actually,
I'm more handsome now, but not as thin.
We are having a push to 5,000 subscribers. I did not look beforehand, but we gained a bunch after last week's episode. I think we're under 200 people. We're under the last time I looked, but that was many days ago.
Wait, you're saying we lost 4,700 people?
No. I'm saying we are under 200 people away from 5,000. So if you're listening, the many more than 200 people that are listening, if you have a YouTube account, and most people do, just consider subscribing, even if you don't mean to ever watch the show, although it's fun, we think, to watch. And finally, join us for the iFanboy After Show exclusively on Patreon, where we'll share our thoughts on all the other books we read this week that didn't make the rundown. There's about 8 of them this week. And that's at patreon.com/ifanboy for everyone at $10 a month tier and up. And that is this week's show. Thank you for listening. I'm Connor.
I am Joshua, if you're mad at me.
Oh.